Bello and the Strawberry Surprise. Fable could hardly contain her excitement as she skipped down the dirt path to Bello's house. Birds sang in the trees, and the air still smelled faintly of rainfall from the night before. She brushed a few dewdrops from her pink hood as she approached the mushroom ring that surrounded the large tree known as the Vale, the place where many of the wee folk had set up their homes. She walked up to the toadstool with the purple door and gave it a knock. Bello opened the door and invited her in for a cup of tea before they headed out on their adventure of the day. They did not have to travel far for it. Today they had made plans to go to the Fungi Family Farmers Market, which took place every week in the spring and summertime at the base of the Vale. They wanted to buy strawberries for an afternoon of baking. Each of them carried a pouch full of glimmers, shiny orbs of wish magic that the wee folk used as currency. When they entered the farmer's market, they both immediately approached a vendor stand overflowing with perfectly ripe wild berries. The vendor there gave the two friends a big smile. "Welcome, welcome," he said. "This season the forest has blessed us with an abundance of strawberries, so we are offering them at half price." Bello delighted in choosing the perfect carton, but they all looked so good he could not decide between several of them. Fable eventually stepped in and filled her basket with his selections and purchased them all. She did not have to spend more than she had planned to anyway, because of the generous discount. They thanked the vendor and continued strolling through the market. This was one of Fable's favorite warm weather pastimes. All around the base of the Vale, members of the fungi family and a few other artisan wee folk proudly displayed their wares: bouquets of colorful wildflowers, cartons of hummingbird eggs, jars filled with honey, marmalade, and jams made from every fruit imaginable. Wee folk bustled about, the air buzzing with their many conversations. Fable was never happier than when she was surrounded by friendly energy like this. Bello used his share of the glimmers to buy a few baking essentials: a sack of flour, some sugar, cream, 1 lemon, and a few hummingbird eggs. He even purchased a bouquet of fresh chamomile that smelled so honey-sweet, he knew that he had to include it somehow in today's dessert. When their shopping baskets were full and their glimmer pouches empty, they headed back to Bello's toadstool. They climbed down the winding stairs that led to his home beneath the surface of the forest floor and set their baskets on the kitchen table. Then they washed their hands and got started on the treat that they had planned: a strawberry shortcake. As Fable portioned out the ingredients, she realized they still had plenty of strawberries left over. Bello thought for a moment, then came up with the idea to also make a big batch of strawberry scones. He was pulling a jar of cold milk from his fridge when another good idea popped into his head. Fable watched with curiosity as Bello poured the milk into a pan and set it on the stove over a low heat, then picked up his bouquet of chamomile and, to her great surprise, plucked off a handful of the blooms and tossed them in. Bello noticed the look of confusion on her face and explained, "Strawberries and chamomile are the perfect springtime pairing. This milk will take on the flavor of the chamomile, and when we add it to the scone dough, it will balance deliciously with the tartness of the strawberries, like drizzling honey over a bowl of fresh fruit." Fable's mouth watered at the idea, and she happily followed her friend's lead as he experimented in the kitchen. The chamomile infused into the milk while they worked on the strawberry shortcake. As Bella prepared a yummy strawberry filling, Fable mixed up dough for the biscuits. As Fable cut the dough into circles, Bello strained the chamomile milk and placed it back in the fridge along with the strawberry filling to cool. When the biscuits for the strawberry shortcake were fully baked and warm from the oven, Bello set them aside and got to work making the scones. Fable assisted in pressing a second batch of dough into a big rectangle and sprinkled half of it with sliced strawberries. Bello folded the dough into a more narrow rectangle with the strawberries sandwiched within. He cut this rectangle into equal-sized squares, then made a diagonal chop across each square to form triangles. It was those triangles that were baked into strawberry scones. At this point, clouds of flour filled the kitchen, and the scent of biscuits and warm strawberries hung so strongly in the air, Fable almost felt like she could taste their creations just by breathing in deep enough. As a final step, Bello stirred some powdered sugar and lemon juice together to form a lemony glaze, which Fable drizzled over the scones, that Bello then sprinkled with the rest of the chamomile flowers for an extra beautiful touch. He had not forgotten about the strawberry shortcakes. He placed the biscuits on 2 plates, cut them in half, and spooned in the strawberry filling, then topped them with a dollop of freshly whipped cream. Bello and Fable took their first bites and closed their eyes as the flavors hit their tongues. Everything came together in a perfect symphony of tastes and textures. The fluffy biscuit, the jammy strawberries, the sweet whipped cream. They both finished their strawberry shortcake and licked their plates clean. Bello rubbed his belly, happy and full. "I want to eat more, but I don't think I could fit one more bite. What should we do with all those scones? It would be terrible to let so many of them go to waste." Fable suddenly had a bright idea of her own. She whispered it to Bello, and he smiled when he heard it. They gathered up most of the scones into their shopping baskets and walked back to the Fungi Family Farmers Market, where they passed around their baked goods to the hard-working vendors who had provided the ingredients for the delicious treats. The vendors thanked Fable and Bello with so much enthusiasm. Fable could almost feel herself begin to glow from happiness. After they had walked a full circle around the market, making sure no wee folk were left empty-handed, Bello insisted that Fable bring the last few scones home to Wick. Basket in her arm, Fable skipped all the way back home. It would be the perfect end to a perfect day, a warm treat to nibble while listening to a story from the kind witch of the woods. The end.